everyone. This is Taylor Drake with New Horizons Ministries. Thanks for joining us for our very first book review, where we will be reading different books by Christian authors and either encouraging or discouraging our members from reading them. Our first book we're going to look at is This Changes Everything: How the Gospel Transforms the Teen Years by Jaquelle Crowe. This book has been on the list of top Christian books from Ardell and Crossway, and so we decided that we were going to take a stab at it and check it out, and I am happy to say that this deserves to be read by as many Christians as possible, especially teenagers, which is who this book is written for and to specifically. So we're going to look at the good and the bad of this book. Let's start off with the good, which is a good place to start. This book is amazingly theologically sound. Jaquelle Crowe has done a fantastic job of taking some really heavy doctrinal beliefs, which people have written millions, if not billions of pages on, and condensed it into bite-sized form for teenagers so that they can not necessarily be spoon-fed, but really begin to take their first bites of these heavy doctrinal beliefs that radically shape and define Christianity. But it's not just her own personal interpretation of these beliefs, and that's what I found to be very encouraging. Miss Crowe is not just giving her opinion and her thoughts on these beliefs, but rather she is quoting John Owen, John Bunyan, Augustine, Wayne Grudem, Jonathan Edwards, John Piper, Oswald Chambers, John Wesley, William Wilberforce, and G.K. Chesterton, who's one of my personal favorites. And she says, I agree with these people who came before me. So she's quoting theologians, Christian philosophers and scholars, and biblical teachers and pastors, and saying, they're right. Here's what that means for teenagers. This is also an amazingly short read. And within this, she's covering sanctification, obedience, discipleship, justification, honoring your father and your mother. And I particularly enjoy the little bit of time she dedicated to teenage purity and what that means. This is easy to read, and it's only 146 pages. For me, it took about 3 hours to read. I hope it takes a little bit longer for the teenagers, because there are questions at the end of each chapter for personal reflection and personal discipleship. I was really surprised at the simplicity of this book, but I loved her honesty, her bluntness, and her openness with how these are hard doctrines and hard principles to live by, and yet how the Holy Spirit enables us to do them and why they're important to us as Christians. This is the type of book that I wish I had when I was a teenager. I wish this would have been around then. My parents would have gotten it for me. We would have read it together and discussed things. So my encouragement is, parents, if you are able to get this book, This Changes Everything by Jaquelle Crowe, get it and give it to your child and read it with them. And answer those questions together. Pastors, youth ministers, senior pastors, my encouragement to you is also to get this book. Again, it's a simple, quick read. I think for adults, it helps us understand, I think, better how to talk about these heavy doctrines, which can be very high and very convoluted and very technical and very wordy, and brings them down to the teenager's vernacular and understanding, which I think was very, very well done. The only bad thing about this book is going to be, this is surface level. This is a survey for teenagers and of Christian doctrine. So, for instance, sanctification is mentioned and only discussed in about 2 or 3 paragraphs. And the same is found with justification. Now, everything she's writing is true and biblically sound. I just wish she would have spent more time going in depth with these certain ideas and doctrines. In addition to this, I just wish that there was more. This is the type of book that I could read at leisure or really, really in-depth. I wish it was a little bit longer. I wish it was a little bit more in-depth. I wish there would have been a little bit more of, okay, here's what this means, and here's how you apply it and practically live out this belief, rather than just this surface-level, top-of-the-iceberg type of book. Again, that's my only complaint. It is a fantastic book, and I would encourage you, the teenager, the parent, and the pastor, to read this book, and then encourage others to read it as well. Our next book that we're going to be looking at is The Way of the Dragon or The Way of the Lamb, searching for Jesus' path of power in a church that has abandoned it. This was recommended to me by my brother-in-law, Nathan Perry, and a good friend of mine, Johnny Bland, who's actually going to be the speaker at our senior high camps in 2018. So I'm really looking forward to this. I heard really good things about it, and that will be the next book that we discuss at the NHM Book Review. This is Taylor Drake, and thanks for joining us.